we've been developing for a long time, and I think when we were first uploading images, if the account was number one, your image became number one. You know, uh, that's not a good way to save things. We've never got really, when we saw bots going through and requesting images without actually going into the web pages, we knew that there was something going on. But even worse, we got this UDF we've been using now called hashid, not to be confused with hashids, which is a pretty good library on its own for specific use cases. I wouldn't use that for like a lot of things, but hashid and ishashidValid is something that we use in our infrastructure. Just to give you some examples of what happened, what is it? Panera Bread was a good example of this. You could go to their website, type in any ID number and see somebody else's receipt because all the receipts were just integers. Parler, which was a social media platform. Again, you could access any of the posts by just typing in the ID number, which is an integer. Integers are great. Integers are fast. They're database friendly. They're easy to remember. They're also sequential. They're also easily guessable. So what we've been able to do with this hashid and ishashidValid is, and you'll see that when I do things, you mentioned this a little bit earlier there, Ben. I am scoping everything, even in these functions, because I've made the mistake before where a database has a column name and that column name is URL. And that's not an illegal database column, but when you start getting into ColdFusion, if you're doing some stuff with it, it can become problematic when you're trying to output URL and it's just like, well, it's complex. And it's just like, no, it's not a complex scope. It's the name of the field. So, we always scope everything not everything, but in these things we do. So this accepts a value, any value, maybe even an integer. It takes extra. This is just basically a salt, and then an optional delimiter. And then what it does is it outputs something. I think I have a vision of that up here. So I did the test code here. You can see here that if I'm creating a hash of the word default, it's just an MD5 hash of the word default plus the salt. And then, my expectation is this valid? Yes, it is. It's assuming this value with no salt. Maybe that error message is not correct. But you can see here I did another one with underscores. This works with numbers. So whenever we save images now to the directory, what we'll do is we will set a global variable as the salt throughout the whole thing. And then whenever we're calling hashid, we say, hey, I've got a new image for account user 56. What this will do is it'll do 56 dash something, and then we'll create a file that in our file system that's 56 dash something. And the beauty of that is, what comes after 56 is 57, but you don't know the rest of that hash.
Right.
So I guess it's not even security through obscurity. It's just it's just making things more difficult for the script kiddies out there.
James, for everyone's benefit, are these going to be, are you going to post these on my CFML then for anyone to get access to?
Yes, I can post that on my CFML. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll post this whole article, this whole thing that we're looking at here. And again, we don't use that really for like secure purposes. Sometimes we'll put that in a URL. I've seen websites where the blog IDs are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can basically tell in what order they were entered in. The other reason we use this too is sometimes on admin tools is we don't want people accessing other records. So when they click on this to edit, the ID that gets passed will be like, again, for user number 56, we'll say user ID equals 56 dash, and now a big long MD5 hash.
Well, let me ask you this. Have you taken the leap, and I call it a leap because it's so scary to me. I have not actually motivated to do it yet, but have you taken the leap to use like a UUID or something to that effect as a primary key in your database?
Yes, we've done that. We've done that on rather large databases, but we'll also throw another key in there. In fact, later on, I'll be showing you, I think we've talked about something called hash code before that works really well with strings. A little bit of collision in it that could happen theoretically. I don't know that I've experienced it yet, but we've used the UUIDs, and sometimes we use them as keys, but we generally also have some sort of integer inside, because if I have to link that to another table, I don't want to be doing joins on UUIDs. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha. Okay, yeah.
I think
So you
it's, I
sort of
think,
have
I
like
think
an
it's,
internal ID and an external ID, kind of.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a double pronged approach to it. Then, we'll have the public, hit the UUID for obvious reasons. And then sometimes some of the tools will use the internal one to do all the joins and some of the harder functions that would go a lot slower with the UUID. We're doing a major, it's major. Yeah. It's slow.
Our ERP uses UUIDs
Yes.
in conjunction with actual numeric values, as you were talking about for primary keys. But they do it so that, let's say you want to associate a customer with a task. Well, then you can just associate the UUID. But let's say you want to associate an inventory item with a task. Well, instead of having to always choose, okay, hey, what type of object am I picking? It can all it has to do is store the UUID as the key within the task table, and then you're going to basically a UUID table to figure out what type of item has been attached.
Well, yeah, it's also nice when you're working with like multiple servers and they don't all have the same ability to know what a consecutive number is, like +1, or if you're importing like a lot of data. Those unique identifiers are like really nice because now that's totally unique because it's not a UUID that matches what's in my system. But this is just a great way of having a serialized number. Again, we use it with numbers. We don't generally use it with strings, but it can be used with both. But using this with numbers is just a great way to obfuscate, I guess, those values and make it harder for people to do it. On our admin tools, I can still go up to the top and it says user ID equals 56 - something, something, something. All our applications know that I'm the developer because I'm my environment, my host IP address, the headers that go to the website, the web application server. So we've got a framework that knows that not only am I a developer, I'm in my internal network and I am the James developer. I can actually go up there and just say 56. And we add logic to say, hey, if you're a developer, don't make this a requirement that you do that because sometimes people will know the ID number, but they won't know the whole hash or they won't give me the URL. I love it when clients can give me a link because I try to make everything link friendly so they can be bookmarked and shared and everything else. When that doesn't happen, I don't want to have to sit there and hash the number myself with their special salt in order to figure out what it is. I actually have my little backdoor again, but that's based on my authorization as a developer.
I like it. One of the nice things about, in my experience, providing both a numeric ID and some other more complex ID, and this, is going to be very application dependent, is I always get a little weary of indexing text columns, but I never have any hesitation about indexing an integer. So I can always look something up on the integer field and then verify against the more complex token if that's also stored in the database.